always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to life as art. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. ER, and quoted in the November '88 issue of the Reader's Digest, said, and I quote, "The art of living is to turn life into a work of art." Unquote. And that's what I'll try to accomplish this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Billy Ocean, Suddenly, and James Blunt, and You're Beautiful. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Ever wondered what was going through Mona Lisa's mind as she posed for her famous portrait? A computer at the University of Amsterdam was put to the test with software designed at the University of Illinois, emotion recognition software. This, according to New Scientist, about 4 years back. I read about it in the Globe and Mail's Social Studies column. Apparently, she was 83% happy, 9% disgusted, 6% fearful, and 2% angry. Irving Layton, quoted in the Points to Ponder column of the November '88 issue of the Reader's Digest, said, and I quote, "Like all people who sit for their portrait, I have the feeling that all the complexity that goes into the making of my personality doesn't get included in the arrangement of paint. I've often observed the sitter's dissatisfaction with his portrait, even though it appears so excellently real to others. I suppose that is because each person knows himself for being the multitudes he really is behind the skin of his face, and smiles to himself to think that any artist can hope to portray them in any single canvas." Unquote. The words of Irving Layton. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The Beatles, Till There Was You, Betty Davis Eyes and Kim Carnes, and Hall & Oates, and Sara Smile. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This is called Life Sculpture. It was written by William Croswell Doane and featured in the 1936 Doubleday collection, Best Loved Poems of the American People. Chisel in hand stood a sculptor boy with his marble block before him, and his eyes lit up with a smile of joy as an angel dream passed o'er him. He carved the dream on that shapeless stone with many a sharp incision. With heaven's own light, the sculptor shone. He'd caught that angel vision. Children of life are we as we stand with our lives uncarved before us, waiting the hour when, at God's command, our life dream shall pass o'er us. If we carve it then on the yielding stone with many a sharp incision, its heavenly beauty shall be our own, our lives, that angel vision. A Life Sculpture by William Croswell Doane, and featured in the collection Best Loved Poems of the American People, Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Live Like You Were Dying. We also heard that great medley, Over the Rainbow and What a Wonderful World, and Sara McLachlan with One Dream. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Madeleine L'Engle from Walking on Water, Reflections on Faith and Art, published by Harold Shaw, wrote, and I quote, "Readers usually grossly underestimate their own importance. If a reader cannot create a book along with the writer, the book will never come to life. Creative involvement, that's the difference between reading a book and watching TV. In watching TV, we are passive sponges. We do nothing. In reading, we must become creators, imagining the setting of the story, seeing the facial expressions, hearing the inflection of the voices. The author and the reader know each other. They meet on the bridge of words." Unquote. Madeleine L'Engle from Walking on Water, Reflections on Faith and Art, published by Harold Shaw. And Julian Barnes in Flaubert's Parrot, published by Alfred A. Knopf, wrote, and I quote, "Books say she did this because. Life says she did this. Books are where things are explained to you. Life is where things aren't. I'm not surprised some people prefer books. Books make sense. The only problem is that the lives they make sense of are other people's lives, never your own." Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Annie Lennox and Why. And Bryan Adams, Inside Out. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Alan Dressler, astronomer, and quoted by Greg Easterbrook in Beside Still Waters, Searching for Meaning in an Age of Doubt, and published by William Morrow, said, and I quote, "When I talk to audiences about the size and age of the cosmos, people often say, it makes me feel so insignificant. I answer, the bigger and more impersonal the universe is, the more meaningful you are, because this vast, impersonal place needs something significant to fill it up." We've abandoned the old belief that humanity is at the physical center of the universe, but must come back to believing we are at the center of meaning. Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The Stylistics and You Make Me Feel Brand New, and Van Morrison, Have I Told You Lately, and I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Jane Kenyon from 100 White Daffodils, and published by Grey Wolf Press, wrote, "The poet's job is to put into words those feelings we all have that are so deep, so important, and yet so difficult to name. To tell the truth in such a beautiful way that people cannot live without it." Unquote. Life as art this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.